Here's another thing he talks about. As a leader of any stripe, you cannot simply give orders and expect your subordinates to follow them blindly. To the contrary, you must establish a clear intent, addressing the why and the desired end state. It will never suffice for a leader to say, because I said so, as a reason for performing tasks. If you can't justify the rationale of an order to yourself, don't make your subordinates do it. Reevaluate your reasons and find another method.
Have you ever said that as a parent? Because I said so.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you got to bust that out.
No, it's stupid. It doesn't make sense to do that.
Yeah.
And when you say every once in a while, you got to bust it out like
saving
you're
time
saying
or
there's like an
something like that.
emergency situation.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm telling you, just put your shoes on. We got to go like that.
Yeah.
Because I said so. Yeah, I mean that's what happens. And you know what happens in the military too, where you don't always have time. You know, if you're in a combat situation, you know, you can't say, hey, take that building over there. And the reason why I want you to do that is because you don't have time to do that. Yeah. So, but you have trust with your subordinates and they know where you're coming from and all that.
Interesting. So really when you really break it down is you never want to do that ever, right? No. You never want to be just because I said so ever. Yeah. But life's not perfect.
Well, this is the
emergencies, all the stuff.
This is another thing that Leif and I talk about is there's times definitely where I was like, Leif, hit that building over there.
Right.
And this is what's cool. There's also times, because I was the guy that was in charge, there was also times where Leif looked at me and said, hey, Jocko, move your Humvee over there. And I was like, oh, okay, because he needs me to do something. Yeah. So we have a mutually supporting relationship. Yeah. It's not about like, hey, I'm the one that's out here barking all the orders. We're trying to get something accomplished together. Right. And if he told me to do something, I know he's got a good reason why. Because if he had time to tell me why, he would tell me, hey, can you put your Humvee over there? Because we're about to, move guys out in this, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Right. I don't need to hear all that. Unless I've got my Humvee there for a reason. And now he's saying to me like, hey, move your Humvee. Hey, hold up. I've got good coverage down this road. Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Yeah. Can you push it back 8 feet? Yeah, we can move it. Okay, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fully.
So it's good. We're cruising like that.
Sure. Yeah, but that's good. But as far as like the actual dynamics of why you shouldn't say because I said so, because it's not in your case. Let's say you don't have time to explain why, right? And you just say, hey, move the Humvee, right? And you just move the Humvee. Still, even if you didn't explain why, the reason still isn't because I said so, and you know that because of all that trust that you guys built.
The reason is because there's some tactical situation that's unfolding. Of course.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where ultimately you never should be like because I said so. Never really should. But in the event of not having time to explain or whatever, even though there's an explanation needed, in the event of that ever happening, you need to kind of build trust. Yes. So you can kind of alleviate that for the lack of time.
That's
or
exactly what I explain to people when I talk about Leif and I on the battlefield, that we had trust with each other. So if if I said to do something, he'd do it and know that I had a good reason for it. If he told me to do something, I would do it because I know he had a good reason for it. And then later on he'd say, I need you to move that Humvee because we were blocking the fields of fire from inside this building. Like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. That's why I moved it. We're all good.
So without that trust being built, and you put that on top of my expectation of you to just follow my order without asking why as a parent or whatever, that is wrong. That's what you're saying. You should not say that. Should not be a leading / parenting
and
tactic.
Also you got to remember, you can get away with it for a little while. Like a new chief checks into a SEAL platoon. He says, hey guys, do this. The guys are going to do it. Yeah. Like they're going to do it. There is a chain of command. There is a rank structure. Yeah. But if that's the persistent methodology of leadership, it's not going to work for the long term. That's what you got to remember. And when you do occasionally say that, like when I would say to my guys to do something, they do it. Like they do it because it was so seldom that I would utilize like some sort of like, hey, do this now. I would very rarely exercise that power over the guys.
And it would probably, I'm just assuming now, and it's probably because you never went to the because I said so technique.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I actually ever said that.
So the less
even in situations where I would want to say it.
Yeah.
like sometimes I'm right.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I do like, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I remember we were running a block of training, and the guys pulled out this certain element of training. And I said, hey, why did you pull out this element of training? And they're like, well, you know, they gave their reasons, which were all wrong. And I was like, sure. Well, no, here's the reasons why you're wrong there, you're wrong there, and you're wrong there. But they were kind of adamant. And I wanted to just say like, hey, shut up and do what I'm telling you to do. Sure. Put that element of training back in there now. Yeah. And I held myself back from doing that. And I'm glad I did. Of course I'm glad I did. Because here's the deal. If you're right and you can articulate it, I mean, eventually it just took me more time to explain to the guys, hey, look, that element of training, it might not be happening right now, but it could very easily happen again in the future. Here's some examples. Here's some places we are in the world. Here's other elements that are out there that are doing that same thing right now that we could easily get folded into. So we need to continue to do that type of training. And they were like, yeah, okay, makes sense. But that was, that took 20 minutes. Yeah. That took 20 minutes. Yeah. I knew I was right. 100%. No doubt in my military mind at all. Yeah. I wanted to just say, hey, shut up and put the element back in training.
Still didn't do it, though.
But I didn't do it. It hurt.
Discipline. I wanted to do it. Yeah, that's how I wanted to do it. So really, almost ironically, the less that you do say, because I said so, the more you can.
Yes, absolutely. Just what I just said before. The more you talk, the less people listen. It's the same thing. Yeah, the more you demand people do things, the less you can demand of them. The less you demand people, the more you can.
Yeah. So the more
use that tool very sparingly as a leader, very sparingly. And you kind of went down that rabbit hole, but this one, if you can't, this other thing, going back to the book, I already read it, but I'll read it again. If you can't justify the rationale of an order to yourself, don't make your subordinates do it. This is something I get asked all the time. They're like, well, what if somebody came up and said, hey, and they told you to do something that you didn't want to do or that you didn't think was right? I'd be like, I wouldn't do it. They're like, well, really? It's like, yeah, of course, really. And this is what they don't realize. They think that everyone in the military is like running around giving orders that are stupid and don't make any sense. That's not true. No, when I got told to do things that didn't make sense, one good example of that was taking Iraqis with us on the battlefield, and they were saying we had to take a ratio of like 7-1 or whatever the ratio was at the time, and it didn't make sense. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. And I ran up the chain of command. They're like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't make sense. You don't have to do it. Take what you can. And we were like, okay, cool. But there's a perfect example of me being like, I'm carrying the line. I'm a company guy. I'm all on board for the big win. But if you tell me to do something that's stupid, I'm not going to do it.
You know what's funny? I heard that about you.
What'd you hear?
That's what you. It was one of my friends. Obviously, we know him, but he'd be like, Jocko's such a badass. He'll like the way he talks to the superiors is like, it's so gangster. He'll be like, no, we're not gonna do that. Doesn't make sense, whatever. And now that you're like explaining it to me, it makes more sense.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be that gangster.
Yeah, but in their mind, they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because I would be explaining it to them. You know? And you got to be very careful that you're not coming across as arrogant, that you're not coming across as know-it-all, which sometimes I would have a tendency to come across like that. And I had to be very careful. I had to check myself sometimes because you want to. It's the same thing. Yeah. Just like you want, I want to tell my subordinates, like, shut up and put that element of training back in there. Yeah. You want to tell your superiors the same thing. And, hey, shut up, that's a dumb idea. But you can't do that. Yeah. And all you're going to do then is what you're going to do is you're going to make them mad at you. The same thing that I just talked about going down the chain of command goes up the chain of command too. So if you're my boss and I treat you with disrespect, you're going to hate me. Yeah. And it's going to work out worse for me because I'm on the bottom side of that little pyramid we've built. Yeah. So when I would talk to my superiors and say that something doesn't make sense, I would do it in a very respectful way. And again, I had to be careful because sometimes, especially people that didn't know me, if you didn't know me, maybe usually the people that didn't know me well, I might come across as more arrogant, and which is bad. I'm not saying like that. That's bad. I wish I wouldn't. Yeah. But if I didn't believe in something, I wasn't going to do it. And I wasn't going to be a jerk about it. But I'm like, hey, here's what's going on. If we take these number of guys in the field with this many Iraqis, we're not going to have all the people that we should have in the field to be safe. You're talking about leaving behind a corpsman. You're talking about leaving behind a radio man. You're talking about leaving behind a close air support fires guy. Those are guys I can't go in the field without, or someone could get killed. And the up the chain of command, I was like, you're right. Cool. Yeah. And this didn't, again, there would be occasional things, but It doesn't happen all the time where people are giving you stupid orders. My bosses didn't tell me to do dumb things.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's kind of what.
And you know
added
what? Sometimes they told me to do dumb things, but they were little dumb things. And you know what I did? We did them.
Yeah.
We did them.
Little pawns.
Little things. You want to do something? You want me to do something stupid, but it's small and stupid? I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I'll save my objections to things that actually matter.
Yeah, makes sense.
Goes back to that paperwork. Leif talks about doing paperwork, and I was like, we don't want to do paperwork. And I'm like, hey, we're gonna do the best paperwork because it's a little thing. We don't care about it. You know what? So we got to stay up an extra hour and do some paperwork. Who cares?
Yeah.
We're gonna build that trust. And that way, when we come time to say no for real, we'll be able to say no for real, and the bosses will listen to us.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that added to the whole cachet, though. You know, where when you did say something or did push back or whatever, you'd still get the results. You know, where someone who may not understand that fully as much as you did, they just witness kind of the end and be like, "Dang, Jocko's gangster like that. He's making stuff happen up the chain."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because to my guys, I might be like, "Hey guys, we're not doing that."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like my guys be like, "Hey, what they told us?" I'd be like, "We're not doing that," and they'd be like, "Oh shit!" And then I go to the the boss's office and be like, and debrief me, "Hey sir, I'm just wondering about this plan we got here. Here's what I'd like to do, and here's how I'd like to go." And then I come back. We're not doing it. And they'll be, yeah. So, maybe that is, level 3 gangster.